Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And hi, folks. How are you? Great to have you with us. Rush Limbaugh, the most eagerly anticipated radio talk show each and every day. You are listening to the most talked about radio talk show out there, the most talked about host of the most talked about radio talk show out there. Once again, coming under fire today as a result of being misquoted, taken out of context. I had a friend, I didn't even know it. Friend sent me a note last night. He said, man, I don't know how you deal with this. It just now people on our side are starting to take it out of context. And I wrote it back because, I long ago stopped caring about it because it doesn't matter. I'll tell you what it is. And it's I think it's instructive too. This goes back to the week before last. By the way, telephone number 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I found a piece at National Review Online on the corner by a guy named David French. And it was he who speculated one of the problems that the Republican Party is having vis-a-vis Trump and so forth is that they have overestimated their conservative base. And I endeavored to interpret that on my own. And he also made a couple of other points that I thought resonated well, and I expanded on them. And one of my expansions was to posit, put out there for consideration, because everybody has been pulling their hair out trying to explain Trump. So many people on the Republican side and the conservative movement, it doesn't make any sense. They can't make hide nor tails of why so many people who've long thought to be orthodox, solid, not intellectual conservative, but people that understood it, that were principled conservatives, how in the world can they be going to Trump? So I have been trying to offer assistance in helping to explain this to people. And the David French piece at National Review was quite helpful to me in advancing my own thinking on this. And one of the areas I took it was to speculate, to posit, could it be, and by the way, let me add something else to it. When I discovered that piece written by Samuel Francis back in 1996, urging Pat Buchanan how to win the Republican nomination back then. And I've told you about this piece, and we've published it. Well, we've linked to it at rushlimbaugh.com. It is one of the most prescient pieces of opinion journalism. A guy writes it in 1996, and it practically is verbatim what's happening today in the Trump campaign. This is fascinating. A guy named Samuel Francis is back in 1996 advising a conservative Republican how to win the nomination. In that case, it was Pat Buchanan. And Trump, whether he knows it or not, irrelevant, is doing exactly what this column suggested doing back in 1996. And what it was essentially was advice for Buchanan to go above and beyond the conservative movement because it was not going to be helpful to him, that he needed to branch out and get into other areas. This guy was advocating things like populism, nationalism, and so forth, and suggesting that an approach like that would work because of the mindset of Americans who are fed up with elites and their condescension and their general inattentiveness to the things that bother the people who make the country work. And it was his theory that a nationalistic approach, i.e. big-time patriotism, make America great, America first, America last, America always, combined with a populist appeal as opposed to conservative, would work. And so people have found that piece, they've looked at it, they've compared it to the Trump campaign. They said, my gosh, this guy back in 1996 actually wrote everything Trump's doing. So I then, in talking to people and I asked the question, could it be that nationalism and populism have usurped conservatism today in the minds of a majority of Republican-based voters? Well, what has happened is that I am now accused of actually saying that and of actually believing that, and therefore of betraying conservatism, which people can't believe because I am Mr. Conservative. I am the Mr. Big, if you will, of the vast right-wing conspiracy. All these people are out there. My God, what's Limbaugh? And it's all resulting, it's the same thing that happens when Media Matters gets hold of things here. Take one sentence out of a very detailed, nuanced monologue or discussion in which I have engaged. Take one little sentence. And Megyn Kelly asked Rich Lowry about it on Fox last week. But she got it right, so did Rich. When she posited the question, she said, Rush Limbaugh has suggested for possibility here that nationalism, populism have usurped. And Rich Lowry said, gee, I hope that's not true. But I was not accused of having definitively. I don't believe it. If you don't listen to the program, and many of the critics of this program never do, listen to it. This program is far more nuanced than some of the things these egghead writers publish. And talk radios, when everybody hosts a conservative talk radio show, gets lumped in together. And so whoever the host is, they think the shows are all the same. And they always zero in on what they think the lowest common denominator is, and then attach my name to it. And so now some conservatives and their publications are beginning to go down this path and so forth. And I assure you, folks, all I am doing here is trying to explain the reasons why I think this phenomenon is happening and why I believe this phenomenon is big. I think it holds tremendous potential. I have no idea where it's going. I don't yet know, and nobody does. We don't have enough data. We don't know what it all means yet. We don't know if Trump is flighty, flash in the pan, real, long-term. Don't even know if he's really going to win. All of this remains speculative, and therefore I am just keeping my powder dry and my eyes open and trying to absorb as much of this as I can, because I have numerous people asking me, what does this mean? Why they do it? A question I got today, Rush. Hillary Clinton's in trouble, Rush. I mean, she's under 50% in the polls. She's coughing phlegm up all the time now. She's got health problems relating to her concussion. And now this coughing spasm due to the thyroid. I mean, she just looks horrible out there. She has no energy. Some 82-year-old guy, 75, whatever is Bernie Sanders, however old he is, he's running rings around her. Why aren't the Democrat establishment guys paranoid, like the Republican establishment guys are? Why is this, Rush? I mean, these are the kind of questions that I, your beloved host, get all the time. Why, Rush? Why is the Democrat? Why is there no panic on the Democrats? There's all kinds of panic on the Republican side over Trump. Why is there no panic on the Democrat side? I think because on the Democrat side, the game's rigged. I've thought from day one Bernie Sanders isn't going to win this. And I'm using intelligence guided by experience. How many times in the last 27 years, and that's the length of time I've been doing this program, how many times have we thought, have we been told, has it been suggested to us that we've got the Clintons now? How many times have we been told, this is it for Hillary, man, this is it for Bill? It's too many to count. And it's never been right. Now, supposedly Hillary's in deep doo-doo over the emails and the server and all of the FBI people investigating her. And the data is in, and it's unsurvivable, they say. But yet, there she is. She's still out there coughing up phlegm. She's still looking like Miss Havisham. Well, a chubby Miss Havisham left at the altar. She's still looking sick, unenergetic. Did you watch any of that thing last night? See, that's another thing. I'm fighting depression today, folks, because I had to watch it. I had to watch this last night, and I endeavored to, and we've got lots of sound bites on it, and I think we found evidence that the whole thing was set up. we found evidence, at least, that the questions were prepared for the people who asked them. In other words, I don't think any or very few of the questions any of those people got were actual questions dreamed up by the people who asked them. And the giveaway is one guy asking a question slipped up. Grab it. Audio soundbite number 4. Chris Cuomo, who, this was such an odd format. Like, these guys go out separately. It's a town hall. And Bernie Sanders was first with Chris Cuomo, and it was funny as can be. Chris Cuomo, even when Bernie Sanders was doing everything he could to defend Hillary Clinton. So Crazy Bernie's out there answering his questions, promising a tax increase, promising free Medicare, promising this everything for everybody. And then after that, Martin O'Malley came out. And Martin O'Malley was number 2, and he was by himself. And the biggest reaction to Martin O'Malley was when he took off his jacket and was, I guess, they were just waiting for him to take off his shirt. The point is, that was it. That was the total level of excitement for O'Malley was when he took off his jacket. Then Hillary bringing up the rear, she came out last. And I almost had to turn the mute on because of that cackling laugh. For the first 10 minutes, that's all she did. Whenever anybody said anything to me, well, you know, it drove me absolutely nuts. But I endeavored to sit through it. Now, here is the soundbite. It was at Drake University in Iowa. And the moderator is Chris Cuomo introduces a member of the audience named Brett Rosengren. And his purpose is to stand up there and ask a question of Mrs. Clinton. Listen carefully.
Brett Rosengren, he's from Logan, Iowa, is going to school, works as a supervisor for a janitorial company, says he's undecided, has a question.
Great.
Secretary Clinton,
it's
sorry.
Okay.
I can see why they gave you this question. I just wanted to know which of our previous presidents has inspired you most and why.
Okay, did you hear what this guy, Brett Rosengren? I can see why they gave you this question. This guy is sitting there. Who knows if he's even there legitimate? Might he bust this guy in? Who knows? The whole thing could have been totally staged with CNN's cooperation. But this guy stands up. Secretary Sanders, oops. Laughter starts. Mrs. Clinton says, it's okay. And then Rosengren says, I can see why they gave you this question. I just want to know which of our previous presidents is what kind of... Nobody asks a question like that. No serious voter gives a rat's rear end a question like that 1 week away from the Hawkeye Caucus. Could you tell me which previous president has inspired you the most? And the guy blows it by saying, I can see why they gave you this question. Which means he was handed the question. So anyway, I watched this whole thing, and we've got appropriate audio sound bites coming from it. And it's not that I want to torture you, but we have spent a lot of time talking about the Republican side. And it is interesting as well what's going on over there on the Democrat side. So let's take a brief time out. We'll take a quick pause, come back, and continue full speed ahead right after this. A lot of people remarked to me yesterday after the program, gosh, Rush, I can't remember the last time you have not said a word about the National Football League and the championship games the day before. I can't recall a time you have come in here on the Monday after the championship games and not said a word about the NFL. And I said, is that right? I had to pause. I said, yeah, that's right. I didn't say a word about it. And I'd better not go any further than that. I mean, it's just not there. It just wasn't in my mind. I don't know what it means. Listen to this. From the UK Daily Mail, police flee for their lives at Swedish migrant camp after they surrounded by a screaming mob as they tried to relocate a 10-year-old boy who had been raped multiple times. The attack allegedly happened in a town in central Sweden. Staff at the refugee center feared the 10-year-old boy was being abused. They failed to remove the child after the refugee would not let the child go. 10 cops, and they were armed. You may not know this. Swedish police are allowed to carry guns. Some police in Europe are not allowed to carry guns, but in Sweden they are. There were 10 cops. They failed to keep the child safe after being attacked by the mob. So a mob attacked the cops, and the cops split. Migrants, immigrants, illegal immigrants. They should have been appreciative. They should have welcomed the Swedish cops. They should have said, thank you for letting us come into your country. Thank you for letting us flee our war-torn homelands. We're so happy to be here, and we're so appreciative of you Swedes for giving us this opportunity to escape the torture and the poverty of our homeland. And instead, they practically mob the cops and send the cops fleeing for their lives. So what do you think is going to happen the next time? It's just another sign of the kind of things going on in Europe that, if people want to pay attention, might be somewhat indicative of our own future down the road. Ted Cruz. The incident happened last Wednesday. 15-year-old asylum seeker was accused of murdering a girl. According to Russia Today, many of the problems are now nothing on the kid. They tried to relocate the kid, get him out of there, and I guess he's still there. I guess the kid's still there. What are you going to do? You got to be tolerant. Ted Cruz. Grab audio soundbite number 14. Ted Cruz has a brilliant point. This is really, really crucial, good point for Cruz that he's making now as we are into the final week prior to the caucuses taking place in Iowa.
If Donald wins Iowa, he right now has a substantial lead in New Hampshire. If he went on to win New Hampshire as well, there's a very good chance he could be unstoppable and be our nominee. Even if you're thinking about another candidate, the simple reality is there is only one campaign that can beat Trump in this state. And if conservatives simply stand up and unite, that's everything.
Now, this is important because Cruz is right. Now, I know that there are many of you out there that you're on the Trump bandwagon. I know a bunch of you aren't. I know a lot of you are angry at that people are on the Trump bandwagon. And you don't understand it, and you're ticked off about it. But if you are in Iowa, and if you are one of those people, I don't care what you think of Ted Cruz. He's right about this. He is the only candidate in Iowa, according to the polling data, who has a chance of winning Iowa other than Donald Trump. And that's according to the polling data. Strange things happen in this state because caucuses are different than showing up and voting, and polling there is not quite the same as it is in other places. But thematically, philosophically, he's exactly right here. Theoretically, if Cruz doesn't stop Trump in Iowa, there may not be any stopping Trump. That kind of momentum has been built up already. So we take a brief time out. There's more on this when we get back. The views expressed by the host of this program documented to be almost always right 99.8% of the time, and way, way up there. And been way, way up there consistently. So Ted Cruz making the point that, according to polling data, he is, depending on the poll, he's either ahead in Iowa. There's a WHO poll out. I think it's, WHO poll that shows Cruz ahead in Iowa. And it's interesting that none of the drive-by media outlets are interested in the poll. You can't find it anywhere except if you know somebody that knows somebody at WHO and they forwarded it out or texted it out to you, whatever. But you won't find anybody picking it up. They pick up all the other polls that show it either nip and tuck or Cruz trailing Trump now. But regardless, there isn't any chance for anybody other than Cruz to beat Trump in Iowa. And the only reason I mention this is I think Cruz had a very good point. I mean, if you are interested in stopping Trump, if Trump's not your ball of wax, Cruz is your guy. If you're in Iowa, Cruz is your guy. That's the only chance. And I don't know, the political professionals out there, the ones who claim to have all the answers, are indeed saying that it's hard to see Trump being stopped if he wins Iowa, where he wasn't supposed to 2 weeks ago. If he wins Iowa, goes on to win New Hampshire, goes down to South Carolina, it could be over. And Cruz is making that point, and it's a good campaign move. And it happens to be exactly right. Look, since I've opened this, what? Do not ask me about, you're going to get me so ticked off. Don't ask me about that. Snurdly want to know how my battery life. Do not ask. I'm serious. I'm so ticked off about you can't. Don't bring it up again. I did as hard as I could to purge the whole thing from my mind before the program. There you had your battery life. Shut up about it. I did also. I have done everything. Don't get me started on it. Nobody's going to care, and it's not going to solve anything, and I don't want to get ticked off for the rest of the program. I can't afford to let it happen. Don't ask me the 6 devices. Don't ask me about it. Why are you bringing it up? It isn't. That's the point. Nobody cares. Everybody thinks battery life's a problem. What's special about mine? And 1, 2, I'm serious. This has got me so ticked off. Last night I almost broke a window. Okay, back now to what I was into. There's another story. This is from the Hill.com. One thing. Trump is saying that he's got a huge endorsement coming today. And everybody's speculating, who is it now? At this late, it's not going to be some local committee man that is only known in Iowa. It's got to be bigger than that. So everybody's trying to get, okay, who would it be? Who could possibly be so big an endorser that Trump would spend a lot of time promoting it? Now, I'll tell you what I've heard, and it's just whispers and nobody knows. Senator Sessions. And I don't know. I'm not even guessing it. I'm just passing on what some people have told me. That would be huge. In many ways, it could be a publication. It could be a conservative publication. You know, Trump's the kind of guy. Okay, National Review does their Stop Trump issue, so Trump goes out and gets an endorsement from another conservative magazine. Could be that. You'll just have to wait and see. Now, the story here at thehill.com, Trump, I'll work with Democrats. I saw that headline. I said, now, wait just a minute. What's this? So I read the story. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump is stressing his bona fides as a deal maker who would be able to enter the White House and work with congressional Democrats to hammer out agreements. I think I'm going to be able to get along with Pelosi. I've always had a good relationship with Nancy Pelosi, Trump said today on MSNBC. Yeah, and Harry Reid, he's going to be gone. I've always had a decent relationship with Reid, Trump said, referring to dingy Harry. But I've always had a great relationship with him. Trump said that he thought he would get along with just about everybody, including Senator Chuck U. Schumer, Democrat New York, likely to be the next dingy Harry, the Senate Democrat leader. Trump said he's even close to Schumer in many ways for quite a while. Now, what is this? This is not what Trump's legion of supporters want to hear, But it's interesting, is this not exactly what establishment Republicans claim we have to be able to do? How many times have you heard it from Governor Christie? You heard it from Senator McCain. We probably heard it in one form or another from Jeb Bush. I'm sure we heard it from Governor Kasich. They've all touted their ability to cross the aisle. They have all touted their ability to cross the aisle to work with Democrats to show that we can make Washington work. A number of establishment Republicans have stated that they know how to make deals with the Democrats, how to be bipartisan, how to make Washington work. That's what establishment Republican candidates say. The establishment of the Republican Party thinks that's what you have to say in order to expand your base beyond just your conservative base voters. The Republican Party thinks they can't win the presidency with Republican votes alone. So, and they believe what's been said about them in the form of criticism, that they're intolerant and that they're racist and bigoted and all that. And so the establishment Republicans, you know this better than I do, for years have been making the case. Romney did it. I'm the guy. I'm the guy who can work with the Democrats. And every time one of them said it, we cringed. Or worse. Every time one of them said it, we started, we don't want to work with them. We want to beat them. We want to defeat them. We don't want to work with them. We don't want to compromise our core in order to get along with them. Because that's what happens. In order to compromise, they don't compromise anything. We give up everything. We work with them. Latest example, the budget deal. But I mean, that's just one of many. And now here comes Trump bragging on MSNBC, I will work with Democrats, touting his friendships with Democrat leaders in the House and the Senate. Maybe he thinks he's already got the primaries wrapped up. Maybe he thinks he's got the nomination. I don't know, but this is the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing the establishment, the mainstream Republican leadership in Washington, this is the kind of thing that they advocate. This is the kind of thing they think they need. And the candidate they've been paranoid about, the candidate they've done everything they could to stop, the candidate they have been scared to death is going to blow up and ruin their party is now out there echoing what they believe. What do you make of this? Back after this. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Rush Limbaugh here behind the golden EIB microphone. To the phones, we start in St. Louis. This is it Lisa? Is that right? Lisa, great to have you on the program. Hi.
Thank you so much. You know, I really paused when you talked about what Trump was saying about Pelosi and Reid, that, you know, he's got a good relationship, he can work with them. They're the reason the country is in ruins, I think. They're the reasons the economy has been wrecked, I think, is because of Obamacare. They have done all of that, and it's almost like Trump is saying, you know, I'm going to work with them and make deals with them, and maybe the country will be less wrecked. The country will be less ruined. You know, if his campaign theme is to make America great again, that's not the way to get it done.
Yeah, I hear you. I think what's going on here. The entire interview features, and we have a ban on MSNBC, so I don't have any audio of this, and I'm not going to lift the ban for this. I can just easily tell you what they said. So, Cookie, don't go racing around there trying to get the video. This all happened in a conversation about Ted Cruz, in which Trump kept repeating how nasty Cruz is and how nobody in Washington likes him, and how, therefore, nobody's going to cooperate with him if he's president. He's never going to be able to get anything done because Cruz can't make deals because nobody likes Cruz. He's just a nasty guy. He went on and on about what a nasty guy Cruz is. Here's what he said. Nobody He's a guy nobody likes and nobody trusts. He's a nasty guy. He says things that are very nasty, so I have to be nastier than him. And it's just one of those things. I've been in politics all my life, Trump said. I've been dealing with politicians all my life. So I think it's his attack on Cruz, and he may not, I don't know, he may not realize that this is not something his base supporters are going to get excited about. In fact, they may have red flags over it. I think he thinks he's just running ripping Cruz and touting his own abilities over what he believes are Cruz's inabilities and deficiencies. And so either way, I mean, no matter how you cut this, it's going to give people like you and others who are for him some pause. I would have to. Right.
Well, if Trump wins and he decides he's going to work with Pelosi and Reid, that means he's going to be working with, according to him, the losers. Why should he have to work with the losers? It sounds, it just sounds to me like he's doing great because he's really something different.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if it plays out in the real world.
You got red flags because this does not sound like the guy who's been on the outside, who's carving a niche for himself that's different and divorced from the way things usually go on. And then you hear about this, anyway, he sounds like any other Republican. Right?
Right. He sounds like an inside guy. He sounds like the guy in the closed door room.
Right. Well,
in the closed door meeting,
Well, it's clear that he thinks that he is promoting himself, that he's touting a super qualification. And remember, the context is everybody hates Cruz. Nobody will let Cruz do anything. Nobody will work with Cruz because they distrust him. He's a nasty guy. He's going on and on and on about this. So Cruz is not going to be able to get anything done. But I, Donald Trump, I know these guys. I've made deals with these guys. I've lived among these guys. I can get things done with these guys. And whether he stopped to think how his base supporters are going to hear that, I don't know.
And, it would be fine to make deals with people whose ideas are good. But if you're trying to make a deal with the people that gave us Obamacare that's been a drag on the economy, that's not good.
Yeah, look, I haven't changed. My sole interest in this is beating these people. My sole, it's at the top of my list of musts. If we are going to have a chance at changing the direction of this country that the left has actually been have us moving in for years prior to Obama. Obama just turned on the afterburners. The left, as I mentioned yesterday, owns the bureaucracy. No matter they win or lose the presidency, they're going to have career leftists that nobody knows. We don't know their names. We don't know how long they've been there, but they're going to be able to write regulations. They're going to be able to stop or support things on a whim. We have basically lost control over the regulatory agencies of this country. They operate solely unto themselves. Nobody's done anything to stop it, and the vast majority of them are leftists, and they've been there for years. Ditto the judiciary. Democrats, if they lose the White House, it's not a fun thing, and they're not crazy about it, but they can always fall back on the fact that they have the mechanisms in place to put all kinds of roadblocks in front of the Republicans. And they're there. So this is a long process that is if it's to be successful in changing the direction of the country. And it's not going to be involving making deals with these people. Not unless they are the ones that totally capitulate. And I don't see that happening. We are the ones that usually totally capitulate in a misguided effort to show the American people that they are wrong about what they think of Republicans. So the Republicans accept the branding. They accept that the criticism the Democrats have made is believed, and they operate on it from a purely defensive standpoint, think the only way that they can grow is to agree with the Democrats. Therefore, people couldn't possibly think they're racist or sexist or bigots or whatever the other criticisms are. because they're agreeable. They want to work with them. They want to show they can govern and they can be bipartisan. And that's supposed to change public opinion toward Republicans. And all it's going to do is secure additional continuing Democrat Party victory. So my top of my list throughout all of this has been these people have got to be stopped politically. They have got to be defeated. Working with them, cooperating with them is not going to make a positive difference, secure positive change in any way. This has been my problem with the Republican establishment. I hear McCain say, I'm the guy on the cross the aisle. Okay, check that one off the list. Not interested, not what we need, not helpful, not useful. Governor Christie, one that says, if I'm elected president, I'll listen to Democrats. If they got good ideas, I'll listen to them. Check it off the list. Not what's important right now. The evidence is in. Like you say, Lisa, these people have destroyed the country, and they are continuing to destroy the country. The evidence, we don't have to speak theoretically anymore. All we have to do is point to real life circumstances and explain to people, you want to know why you can't find a job? You want to know why your health care is a mess? You want to know why whatever's wrong is wrong? Democrat Party. Not a theory. Evidence is in. So working with them? Nope. Not helpful. Back after this. Don't go away. You know, yesterday, there were people who were worried that Trump was going to be an authoritarian, a dictator, kind of like Obama. He was going to be just doing what he wants to do, whether Congress cares or not. Now, today, people are worried that he's going to work with the other party, work with the Democrats. Anyway, that's it for the first hour. In the can, on the way over to the distinguished Limbaugh Broadcast Museum, virtual museum. You have to see it. It's rushlimbaugh.com. Oh, speaking of which, this is it. Last day for Al Gore's prediction to come true. So everybody's asking me, what's going to happen? You know, we've been running the Gore countdown clock at rushlimbaugh.com for 10 years. It happens tomorrow, January 27th. Al Gore said 10 years ago that we had 10 years to save the planet. That if we didn't, that life on Earth would be totally unlike it was 10 years ago. And then guys like Larry David came along. You know, Al, he's a funny guy, but when he gets serious, you have to listen, because Al's telling us that if we don't act on this, the Earth is going to become this giant skillet in 10 years. Well, here we are, 10 years later, and nothing's changed. It isn't any hotter than it was. They're having to make excuses for the heat that never happened by claiming the ocean ate it. Oh, yeah. The ocean ate the heat. It's way down there at 700 feet below the surface, 700 meters. So that would be 21, almost a half a mile down there. And that's where all the heat is. And it's gonna come bubbling up there, and it's gonna heat the salt water. And the heat that the oceans ate is gonna heat up the salt water. The salt water is gonna flood, and that's how we're gonna get the rising sea. This was in all of the pro-global warming climate change analysis of last week. So people say, what are you going to do when the Al Gore clock hits zero? And that's a surprise. We're still working on that, folks. One thing we never thought about until yesterday. What do we do when the thing hits zero? I mean, we started this 10 years ago. Who thinks 10 years down the road? Other than we knew that Gore was full of it, and that whatever he was saying wasn't going to happen, wasn't going to be true. Anyway, great to have you back. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. The email address, alrushbaugh@eibnet.com. Yeah, I've heard of the Planned Parenthood story. This is a fascinating thing that happened in Texas, in Houston. And there may be a reason for this. You remember all of those videos that were made in secret, that were not edited, and they were not doctored in any way. The full video, every full-length video was available at that group's website if you wanted to go look at it. I mean, you could say 10 years later and the East Coast just had its worst winter storm in, 30 years? However long it's been. Anyway, so there's a grand jury in Texas that was convened to hear evidence on what Planned Parenthood was doing in terms of chopping up babies and selling the parts for profit and so forth. And lo and behold, at the end of the process, the two people that made the videos end up being indicted. And they are indicted for crimes that could force them to see 20 years of jail time. Now, I don't know if it's happened yet, but there wasn't any paperwork produced by the I don't know what the DA now, after the district attorney state, I don't know what they call it, but whatever, there wasn't any paperwork produced to accompany the indictment, so we just had to go on what was said by the prosecutors. But it's a really, really strange thing. And folks, the only thing that we have learned about what could have happened here is, I find it fascinating. We talk about a grand jury yesterday in regards to the FBI investigation of Hillary, and how the FBI can't do anything. They can recommend, but they can't charge, they can't arrest. The Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney, has to do all that on the recommendation of the FBI. And talking about how grand juries work and so a grand jury is impaneled here to hear evidence against whatever Planned Parenthood was doing, and it turns out that the filmmakers, the video, the journalists, if you will, end up being indicted. And what has been learned is there is a member of the prosecutor's office. It's the Harris County District Attorney, who's a Republican, by the way. Her name is Devin Anderson. I think I read that she's a Republican. And this is the Center for Medical Progress. They're the outfit that made the videos. They end up being indicted. And the left, I mean, they were having Schadenfreude yesterday like you can't believe. They were so excited. They thought this was justice. Because, listen to them. These people made up the videos. None of it really ever happened. It was all doctored. These people are intolerant right-wingers and so forth. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the evidence is presented in such a way that the journalists or the people who were acting as journalists have always acted, doing investigative pieces, they end up being indicted. And it turns out that there is a prosecutor in the Harris County DA's office named Lauren Reeder. She's in the Criminal Family Law Division, and she is on the board of Planned Parenthood. And she notified the DA, Devin Anderson, of her role with Planned Parenthood last week, long after the grand jury process had begun. Devin Anderson, the prosecuting attorney in Harris County, Houston, told the Houston Chronicle that Lauren Reeder, prosecutor in her office, had a role with Planned Parenthood. She was told that she would not be involved in any manner in the investigation. The DA said if at any time in the future reliable and credible information is brought to my attention that would question our ability to continue to perform a fair, thorough, independent investigation of this matter due to her board membership, then I will revisit the issue of seeking the appointment of an independent prosecutor and act accordingly. Well, I don't know. My dad's a lawyer, or was, and a lot of my family members are lawyers. I've never heard of this. I've not heard of the messengers being indicted for crimes when they have on tape Planned Parenthood talking openly, freely, and very positively about dissecting dead babies and selling the body parts. The messengers, the people who uncovered this information, end up being indicted. It's hard to say something like this has never happened before, because that's just hard to say. I mean, it's hard to find anything that's never happened before. But, man, this is a strange one. I read this today. I actually read it last night. I said, this can't be. There's something not being reported. This doesn't make any sense. They convene a grand jury in order to look into potential criminal acts of people at Planned Parenthood, and at the end of the process, the grand jury says, you know what, no, we don't think Planned Parenthood did anything, but these two people who made the videos, that's who we want to indict. Go get them. And so the DA says, oh, well, if that's who you want to indict, fine and dandy, then that's who we'll indict. Now, we don't know what goes on in grand jury rooms because it's, by law, secret. But this is like a rogue grand jury. Grand jury decided to take a road that the prosecutors did not convene them for, which they can do, I guess. It just seems really peculiar, particularly to a novice, a layman like myself when it comes to intricate matters of the law. I always have to seek expert guidance on things like this, because it's not my level of expertise, but it is for a lot of people I know. So I'm in the process of trying to get learned opinion on this and whether or not this is unprecedented or how much precedence for something like this there might actually be, or how something like this can happen. That's really what I'm interested in. How, behind the closed doors of the grand jury room, does something like this happen? So I have reached out to the legal beagles that I know. When I get a response back, then I'll share it with you. Now, back to the Republican campaign. I want to pick up again with Ted Cruz. 3 sound bites here, and then a reminder of the story running in thehill.com today about Donald Trump and his assurance on MSNBC today that he can work well with Democrats in the Senate. He knows Harry Reid, he knows Pelosi, he knows Chuck Schumer. It's not a problem. He can work well with them. Judging by my email, by the way, this is a red flag for a lot of people. But anyway, here's Cruz. This is yesterday in Cedar Rapids, and it's a great campaign pitch, actually, for people on the fence or people who are opposing Trump but may be thinking of voting for Rubio or for Rand Paul or Jeb, whoever. This was Ted Cruz's message to them.
If Donald wins Iowa, he right now has a substantial lead in New Hampshire. If he went on to win New Hampshire as well, there's a very good chance he could be unstoppable and be our nominee. Even if you're thinking about another candidate, the simple reality is there is only one campaign that can beat Trump in this state. And if conservatives simply stand up and unite, that's everything.
Now, by the way, about that last thing Cruz said, that I happen to know has been his guiding philosophy since he got into this race. I had lunch with Ted Cruz a couple of years ago it was in November when David Horowitz has his thing here. What's that called? Restoration Weekend? It's restoration, not reformation. It's restoration. Yeah, there's a bunch of people down there come down to make speeches. People pay to come down, hear the speeches, spend the weekend at a resort hotel, the Breakers. And I had lunch with Ted Cruz, and he was going on and on and on about if every conservative in this country was unified behind a candidate or an idea, that it would be unstoppable. And he spelled out for me how he thought that could be made to happen. And obviously, he wanted to play a role in it. But he has believed that for as long as I've known. I don't speak to him frequently. Don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to say we're buddy-buddy. I just did that lunch that we had. He made a big deal out of conservative unity. The conservatives simply stand up and unite, that there's nobody that can stop them. And they don't. I mean, conservatives are fractured like every other political group. Now, here's Trump. Trump, on MSNBC today, said that he thought I'm going to be able to get along with Pelosi. I'm going to be able to get along with Harry Reid, although he's not going to be there. But I'm great friends with Schumer. I'm able to get along with Schumer. And he said this in the context of Cruz being a nasty guy. Nobody likes Cruz. Nobody's going to be able to get anything done with Cruz. If you guys elect Cruz, nothing's going to happen because everybody hates Cruz. They despise Cruz. They're really nasty guys, really nasty. There's a lot of nasty things, Trump says. And nobody's going to work with him. It was in that context that Trump offers that he knows Democrats and can work with them. So the context of this is Trump making this assertion about himself, comparing his abilities to the lack of abilities he claims Cruz would have. A couple of audio sound bites on this. Last night, CNN's Situation Room, Wolf Blitzer said to Trump, you just posted a Facebook video where you say the establishment's against you. Why do you say that?
I think the establishment actually is against me, but really coming online because they see me as opposed to Cruz, who is a nasty guy who can't get along with anybody. We can't have a guy who stands in the middle of the Senate floor and every other senator thinks he's a whack job, right? You know, you have to make deals. You have to get along. That's the purpose of what our founders created. And Ted cannot get along with anybody. He's a nasty person.
Okay, so I think what's happening here. So I don't believe Trump is ideological in his decision making or even in his the formation of his principles. Not everybody is. It's one of my big frustrations, folks, as you well know, is that so many people are not. I have waxed eloquent, I don't know how long, if we could simply educate people to ideologically identify liberals, to understand them on the basis of ideology, that we can escape so much misery because they would never be elected. The way the Democrats cover their ideological extremism is with compassion and tolerance and fairness and understanding. And so people react to what they say, they react to their intentions, and ignore the destruction that they bring. And it's always been my belief that just get people to understand the ideology of liberalism, the ideology of conservatism. It's not complicated. What's a liberal? What's a conservative? Not what's a Democrat, what's a Republican. What is a liberal? What is a socialist? What is a communist? Not just by label, but what are they? If we had, and I blame the Republican Party for not pushing this distinction. And the reason they don't is because they don't want to tout themselves as conservatives. If we had some people proud to be conservatives, it'd be easy as pie to contrast ourselves with the left. I don't think Trump is ideological either. So here he is. He's up against it with Cruz. And he's trying to sell himself over Cruz. Hey, Cruz is he's a really nasty guy. You seen that? He's a whack job. And everybody in the Senate knows he's a whack job. Nobody get along with him. You can't make deals with people who hate you. I know that. That's why people love me. I make deals with people all the time. I can make deals with the Democrats. He may not. Well, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'm not going to try to make excuses for him. I'm just telling you it's a red flag to a lot. I don't want to work with Democrats. I don't want anybody. They want people who are going to smoke them. They want people who are going to cream them. They want people who are going to drive them into the ground and bury them and then hammer the political nails one after another and end this. Not work with them. Back in a second. Let me share with you some analysis that will no doubt be misunderstood and distorted in many places in our media. But here we go. As I'm listening to Trump talk about all this, and not just today, it is fascinating, is it not, that Donald Trump has sort of reframed or maybe even redefined the purpose and the position of the presidency as something defined by negotiating deals. He talks about this all the time. He is credibly, this is important, he's credibly presenting himself as a skilled deal maker, as a skilled negotiator. Therefore, he is positing here that the job of president, to him, is negotiating and deal-making, foreign and domestic. Trade equals deals, foreign policy equals deals, such as Iran, the entire Middle East. Domestic policy equals deals, i.e. making them with Democrats. And by all of those deals, here's the thing. Every time Trump talks about doing a deal with Mexico on the wall, you name it, with the Chi-Coms, every time he talks about doing deals, he talks about winning them for his position, that nobody else is any good at this. The people running our government now, elected officials now, don't know how to do deals. They do the dumbest deals ever. But Trump is going to do smart deals because that's what his life is. He does deals for everything, and he runs rings around everybody. He wrote a book on how to do deals better than anybody else. And even after telling everybody how to do deals, they still can't do them better than he does. And he's defined all of this as pro-America, i.e. for the people, making America great again. And the opposition, or the opposite reactions to Trump among Republicans and others, depends on whether people trust or believe him or not. Trump opposers don't believe it. Trump supporters do believe it. Now, he thinks he can make deals with Russia and Putin better than Obama. Everybody thinks so. He's repositioning everything here as he's a deal maker. And Cruz can't do deals because everybody hates him. And we head back to the phones now. Yeah, we're still going to get to the Democrat side of things, and we're not through with the Republicans. For example, two stories. I got raked over the coals for making this point yesterday, and here I come being backed up today. CBS News, Americans hate the U.S. government more than ever. And then the BBC New Magazine, Donald Trump and the Politics of Paranoia. And this writer for the BBC gives the history of fear in American politics in order to explain Trump. It's exactly what I said yesterday. Exactly what I said. The fear of government. There's a fear of losing your job, fear of losing your money, fear of this or that. But all those fears are under a giant umbrella of fear of the government. So I made that point, and I said that's why there are probably some people who support Cruz because they think of him as a conservative because he's going to stop the fear of government. And I got raked over the coals in a couple of places. Oh, dear, that's just absurd. And here comes the backup the very next day. Well, I was going to say I love it. That's petty. But it's the truth. Anyway, back to the phones we go. Mark in Spirit Lake, Iowa. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Great to be on, Rush.
Thank you, sir.
Be able to talk. Just a couple observations. I've been to Trump rallies and I've been to Cruz rallies and talking to people. I mean, yeah, you get a lot of people at Trump rallies because they're entertaining. They're fun to go to. But I think there's a righteous anger in this country on two subjects. One's the whole politically correctness crowd, and the other is the established, especially the Republicans, and not standing up to the conservative beliefs and the Constitution. I think Trump's strength is he's anti-PC, so that's what we like about him. Cruz, on the other hand, unlike what Trump calls him, Cruz is not a nasty person. He's a man of great integrity. He has a moral compass, and he has convictions, and he stands by those. So, while Trump may get a lot of headlines and get a lot of crowds following him, I think I grew up in a Iowa farm family, and for me, I want the government to get more out of our lives and get back to constitutional type law in this country.
What about ethanol?
And I think there's a misunderstanding on Cruz's position on that.
I meant you.
When Branstad came out and said don't vote for Cruz because he's against the American Iowa farmer, that's not correct. Cruz is against government playing a role in picking winners and losers in business transactions, and in farmers are going to take advantage of government subsidies and government programs if they're there. But in a large part, Iowans, we don't even want government involved in that part of our lives. But if
that's not. Now wait just a minute. Now, that's not true. King Corn wants government involved every second of every day protecting it.
Who wants that?
King Corn, the corn lobby in Iowa. They want the government. I'm not talking about Cruz. I'm talking.
But,
I asked you
again,
what you
that corn lobby is part of the establishment. That's not part of true American family farmers. If government got out of our lives, we'd be perfectly happy. Yes, we can benefit from that. Yes, we can take advantage of it. Guess what? Then we have to allow other states to get their pet projects passed.
I understand that.
We don't want that anymore.
My point was asked. You had just finished a great explanation of why Cruz has his supporters and why Trump has his. And you went on about how the establishment's this, Ted Cruz is anti-establishments. And then so I asked you, you sound like a Cruz supporter, so what about ethanol? Because I have found that ethanol as an issue can turn the most conservative Republican voter into pro-establishment because they want the subsidy.
And I'm saying that that's not the right, at least not from my perspective, the pulse of the family farmer in Iowa. The thing is, Rush, is that it's kind of like drugs. Once you get hooked on that kind of stuff, it's kind of hard to give them up. But for your own health and well-being, you have to give it up.
I know it's like these guys that have concessions that take you out on a boat to feed whatever the dolphins, and after a while the dolphins would die if the guy feeding them doesn't show up with his customers every day. I understand about creating dependency and so forth. I just can't tell you the number of times I have had calls during the Hawkeye, in the weeks leading up to it. Ethanol always comes up, and I always advocate get out of it. It's it's not even good for car engines, all this stuff. I get calls from angry Republicans who claim they've been listening to me forever. Are you really want to lose Iowa? Is that what you want to do? Because I guarantee you get rid of ethanol and the Republicans are finished here. I hear it every 4 years. That's the only reason I asked you. I was taking your temperature vis-a-vis your support for Cruz. Anyway, so we have some anecdotal storytelling here from a guy on the ground in Iowa who says that the Trump rallies are exciting. I mean, a lot of people showing up basically to be entertained and have some yucks, but that the Cruz rallies are full of substance and issues, and it's clear his preference is for the latter. So we'll see. I appreciate the call, Mark. Don't misunderstand the tone of my voice here. When I get insistent, I sometimes sound accusatory. I'm not accusing you of anything. Merely analyzing here, positing, postulating, theorizing, exploring, all of that. Here is Dave in East Lansing, Michigan. You're next. It's great to have you on the program. Hi.
Hey, Rush. Thank you. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump isn't a conservative, and I know this because in the last 8 years, my family and I have volunteered for Republicans who said they were conservative and have done absolutely nothing. And although that I cringe at some of the things that Donald Trump says, he's saying the things that's important to me. Build a strong workforce back in America, stop with the lopsided tariffs, and immigration. And the best part about it is he's doing it in such a way that's not politically correct. And when I first heard him, I'm going, hell yeah, that's what needs to be said. And as far as him working deals out with the Democrats, he's a businessman. What did he do before he campaigned? He worked with politicians. He gave $50,000 to this Democrat. He gave $25,000 to that Democrat. He went to the Clintons' wedding. He's got markers in his back pocket. How do we know that he just hasn't been holding on to those chips till this comes in? And the last point is, I think it is absolutely funny that we finally got a third-party candidate, and he's running within the Republican Party.
That's how you look at this, huh? So what was your point in leading off by telling me that, did you say you are or you are not a conservative?
Oh, I have been a conservative brought up by my father, small business owners.
Okay. So you are a conservative, but what's remarkable about that is that you have now moved your support to Trump. So you're identifying here as a rock-solid conservative, but that doesn't matter. You moved to Trump and you gave us the reasons why. That was your point?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to, because I don't hear everything you say. I've got to read some of it on the transcription. I just wanted to make sure I understood you. I'm not challenging you, please. Mm-hmm. Everybody understand when I ask you to repeat, it's because I didn't hear you. It's nothing.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get a lay of the land here. So you are making the point that you are as conservative, and you always have been your dad, but Trump's come along, and you don't care that he's not conservative. That doesn't matter to you. He's saying the things, and you believe what he says, and he's going to put this country first for a change, and that's what you want.
He has the business savvy to do it, and he's not going to take no. That's all I've been asking my conservative Republicans to do. Stop the stuff with the Democrats. Stop giving in to them. Stand up and do what the people want.
Okay, so given that, Dave, does it give you pause when you hear Trump say today on MSNBC that he will work with the Democrats? He can work with them. He knows Reid. He knows Pelosi. He gets along with them. He can do deals with them. He did deals with Schumer, who's going to be the new Reid. Does that bother you at all when you hear that?
Oh, no. He's been doing deals with the Democrats for years. He's given how much money to Democratic causes and funding them for elections. He's got markers that are due. He's given them thousands and thousands of dollars, just like lobbyists do. And what do lobbyists do?
No.
Listen, I'll
He's
give you
got
money.
Billions and billions. Get it right. He'll call here and tell me to tell you billions and billions.
But that's the point. He gives them money. Now he gets to collect the markers. So, heck yeah, he's worked with them.
Oh, there you go, folks. What did I just... An elongated little monologue about how Trump is revolutionizing what the job of the presidency is to make deals where Americans win. Domestic deals, foreign policy deals, trade deals, whatever. That's what he's going to do. His book's not The Art of the Compromise. That's not what it's called. It's called The Art of the Deal. And that's what the founders wanted. The founders wanted deal makers. But you know what the most intriguing thing that old Dave here said? That we've got a third-party candidate running for the presidency in the Republican Party. That is insightful. Okay, let's talk about deal making here for a minute. Just a quick minute or two. When you are in business, like say you're J.R. Ewing and you're up against the cartel in Dallas, and you're making deals. Those are business deals, any kind of a business deal. The experts who teach business school students how to do deals, the best deals are those in which everybody at the end feels good. The art of the deal in business is making sure that you get what you want while making the other side think they got enough of what they want that they're happy to. That in business, it's a bad thing to skunk somebody and leave them with nothing. Give them something, no matter what cards you hold, and if you go into the deal holding none of the cards, the objective is both sides like it and both sides don't. If there's commonality, if both sides are unhappy they didn't get it all, fine. If both sides are happy with what they got to one degree or another, then you got a good deal, an okay deal, and you're out of there. In politics, that's not how it works. Take a look at the deals the Republicans have done with the Democrats and ask yourself, in every one of them, be it a budget deal, be it an immigration deal, is there a single deal that the Republicans have made in the past 7 years that any of you have felt, you know what, we got something out of this? No. However, if you listen to the Republicans who participated in the negotiation of the deal, they universally come out of there and start telling us, hey, we got some stuff in here that we didn't have. And out of the budget deal, you know what that was? We won back the right to export oil. We smoked them. We got a great deal. And you're saying you think that makes this a good deal? So from the Republican establishment standpoint, they think, or they think you will be made to believe that they made a good deal if they tout what they think they got out of it. The Democrats, when they go into one of these deals, it's smoke city. There isn't going to be one iota compromise. The Republicans aren't going to get anything that matters. Now, the Democrats might give them something inconsequential, just enough that the Republicans can leave the negotiation and say, look what we got here, we did okay. And their voters are saying, you got skunked, you got nothing. We lost it again. And what you promised to do is kick it down the road, and we'll deal with it the next time. And it keeps happening and happening. We didn't get diddly squat. Yeah, we did. Look at Medicare Part B. We skunked them. We got a brand new entitlement that's got conservative free market principles all over it. You think that's a win? That's what we were told after that happened. How in the world can you, with a Republican administration, a Republican House, agree to a new entitlement? It's your idea for a new entitlement. And they dare come out and tell us that that's a win? But in Trump's world, where he does deals, he's going to have to do business with them down the road. He doesn't want to make enemies, like he says Ted Cruz does. Ted Cruz is not nasty. Now, this is the thing. I have warned them about this I don't know how many times. Ted Cruz is not nasty. He's a nasty guy. He's a nasty guy. Everybody hates Cruz. No, they don't. They fear Cruz, maybe respect Cruz. But, hey, look, if you're running a scam and somebody comes along in your own club and calls you out on it, you're not going to love them, which is what Cruz did many times. Okay, that's that for that. Now, I want to do just when we get back here and start the monologue segment the next hour, we're going to focus on, look, if I had to watch it, you're going to listen to some of it. This stupid town hall last night. Don't worry, I will use my own inimitable talents and skills to take what was drudgery and make it interesting and entertaining. I also have, in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers, a pretty good legal explanation of what happened in the grand jury room in Harris County, Texas, over Planned Parenthood and the group that made the videos of them buying, selling, negotiating the price of chopped up body parts. We'll be back. Don't go away. Over the course of the many years of the EIB network, there have been countless people call here and advocate for a third-party candidate because the Republican Party has been so inept in representing its voters that the only solution is third party. And on each occasion, I have said guaranteed to elect Democrats, because all you're going to do is split the Republican vote, because not everybody is going to join the third-party candidate. What I have said is the best thing to do is to take over the Republican Party from within it. And look what could be transpire. You might say that Trump is doing that. I mean, that caller refers to his candidacy much like third-party candidacy would be, and I think that's pretty insightful. And for his part, Ted Cruz is trying to take over the Republican Party for conservatives and wrest control of it back. That's why what's happening here is really potentially momentous. So a big red flag has been thrown up as a result of the Trumpster on MSNBC today assuring everybody he will work with the Democrats and touting his ability to do so. That's a big step in it. I know he's doing this in the context of trying to contrast himself with Ted Cruz, who is nasty. Everybody hates Cruz, never be able to get things done, so forth. But the last thing anybody, and I'm guaranteed, last thing anybody supporting Trump wants is for him to work with Democrats. He wants them to skunk them like he's talking about winning everything else that he's doing in his deal-making and negotiating. It includes Democrats. It includes beating Democrats. It includes winning over the Democrats, not just the Iranians, and not just Putin, and not just the Chicons. It includes winning over the Democrats, beating the Democrats. We'll see how this plays out. I know he's going to say he's trying to, hey, this is just in the context here. There's a Cruz out there who can't work with anybody. And I know, I do think, I need to repeat here, I think it's fascinating here that Trump has sort of redefined what he thinks the position of presidency is making deals. No matter what it is, everything is a deal. Every part of your agenda you're trying to advance happens as the result of a deal. And there's nobody better at doing deals than he is. And he means it from the standpoint of winning them. And he better mean it with Democrats. Greetings and welcome back. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone at 800-282-2882. Now, the grand jury down in in Houston, over this Planned Parenthood thing. Here you have the Harris County DA convene a grand jury with these two people from the, I never can remember the name of their group. Let me grab this rule. It's the what is it? Center for Medical Progress. These two people, a guy and a girl from the Center for Medical Progress, go in and make secret videotapes of having lunch with or meetings otherwise with members of Planned Parenthood. They get them on videotape and audio tape, talking about chopping up dead babies and selling, in some cases, live tissue parts, dead tissue parts, with selling them for profit. They pose as potential buyers. So a grand jury is convened in Harris County, Texas, which is Houston, for the apparent purpose of compiling and creating and presenting evidence against Planned Parenthood for what they've done. And in the process, something goes terribly wrong, and the two people from the Center for Medical Progress end up being indicted for criminal behavior in the way they secured the videos, and now they are subject to 20-year jail terms. So I reached out to some trusted legal people, and this is a sensible take on what happened. And it does involve a rogue prosecutor who was able to take the circumstances on the ground and do a 180 with them. And here's the point. In a regular criminal investigation that is undercover, which is what the two people from the Center for Medical Progress, what just happened? Center for Medical Progress essentially went in undercover. They were disguised as potential buyers. That is key here. In a regular criminal investigation that's undercover, the police undercover operatives, the black bag operatives, the undercover agents, and their undercover informants have immunity in the criminal transactions they're negotiating. Like if you go undercover to score a big heroin deal, you can't get prosecuted for buying heroin in the process because you're granted immunity as part of being an undercover agent, right? Makes sense? Well, what the prosecutor did here is essentially say journalists do not have this legal immunity to do undercover work as the cops do. You can't just say I'm a journalist and go in there undercover and be immune from whatever criminal actions you engage in order to entrap or ensnare your targets. Now, this is a guess. It's an analysis of what might have gone on. A rogue prosecutor who knows that journalists do not have legal immunity to do undercover work as the cops would have. So even though the journalists, the two people from the Center for Medical Progress, even though they didn't really want to buy baby parts any more than any undercover cop really wants to buy a bag of crack cocaine, you have pro-abortion activists in the DA's office. You've got a Planned Parenthood board member in the DA's office who are taking advantage of the fact that the undercover journalists from the Center for Medical Progress do not have immunity protection, the same as an undercover officer or confidential informant would have, and so they can be charged. So all that has to happen is that your rogue prosecutor, working in consort with your pro-abortion activists and DA's office, get in the grand jury room and start explaining all this to the grand jury, which made up potentially your average Hillary voter, for all we know. And you start explaining what really went on here. Here we have this great organization, Planned Parenthood, that's trying to plan families and trying to protect women from the terrible, almost fatal disease of pregnancy. And here come these rogue agents disguised as journalists, but they don't have immunity, and they're the ones who've engaged in criminal activity, and the prosecutor can present whatever case she wants in there, and you can have these grand jurors. This is outrageous. You mean they did all that? They played, and true. We think they're the ones that ought to go to jail, not the Planned Parenthood people. We think they're the ones that ought to go to jail. Prosecutor smiles. Comes, I got an indictment, but it's for the Center for Medical Progress. And everybody's going, what? So it could be something entirely different, but this is a theory that makes complete, total sense to me, because it is, in fact, rooted in legal truth. A couple of more Trump sound bites here before we get to the Democrat side of things. As you know, Donald Trump is saying he may not show up at the Fox debate tomorrow night. Here he is last night on CNN talking about it. Wolf Blitzer said, Donald, you and Megyn Kelly have had issues, and she's one of the moderators of Thursday's debate. Are you going to be there? Are you going to show up at the Fox debate?
I don't like her. That might be the best thing that ever happened to her. Whoever even heard of her before the last debate? But I thought she was very unfair in the last debate. I'm not a fan of Megyn Kelly. If I think I'm going to be treated unfairly, I do something else. But I don't think she can treat me fairly, actually. I think she's very biased, and I don't think she can treat me fairly. But that doesn't mean I don't do the debate. I don't think she can treat me fairly, and I'm not a big fan of hers. Maybe I know too much about her.
Okay, now, did you know how many times he said, I'm not a big fan, I don't like her, she doesn't like me? That was the whole bite. He kept repeating that. My contention is that's when he's thinking of what he next wants to say, and this case didn't come up with anything. So he kept repeating what his point was. Now, let me see a show of hands in there. I got 3 people here. It could have been on the Texas grand jury, for all I know. How many of you think Trump is going to show up at the debate on Fox? All 3 think he's going to show up. Exactly. Exactly right. This is called hyping the audience. This is called creating an even larger audience than Fox got when they had their 25 million or 24 million, whatever it was. There's no question he's going to show up. Well, there might be a question. But he wasn't finished knocking Megyn Kelly. Good Morning America today. George Stephanopoulos, well-known Democrat Party hack, says, seems like Fox News might be taunting you a little bit, suggesting you're showing fear. You're a little bit afraid to show up because of Megyn Kelly. You might be afraid of her. You're afraid of the questions that she might ask you.
No, I have no fear. I don't think she's a good professional. She's very biased against me. I don't think she's a very talented person. I don't think she's a good reporter. I love doing the debates. I just do think they should get competent reporters. They shouldn't use somebody like her. She's not very good at what she does, I will tell you that.
We should assume you'll be there Thursday night?
Well, you can probably make that assumption, but I'm thinking about it.
He's holding out the possibility he won't show. Come on. And have it written and said that he chickened out because Megyn Kelly... See, he issued a demand. He told Fox, you get her out of there. She doesn't like me. She hates me. She's not very talented. I saw enough blood last time. I don't want to see any more. Get her out of there. I'm not showing up. I don't want to do the debate. Well, he didn't say the blood. I just threw that in there. And Fox said, you don't get to pick the journalists. You don't get to pick the journalists. Screw this. And Trump's, okay, well, I'm not going to show up. I might not show up. I might not. All the while continuing to insult her. This just hypes it. This just hypes it. And, in fact, everybody knows what's going to happen. She can't back down. She's got to ask what everybody would consider to be a tough question. He has to be prepared to deal with it. However, see, I told you she hates me. I told you. I knew I shouldn't have come here. I knew it. But I wanted to be true to my commitments. But look at that. She doesn't like me. You can tell by the very first question she asked me. She prefers somebody else up here. Anyway, I can just see it happening. Both of them have to stay in character. Not an insult. Don't misunderstand. Here's F. Chuck Todd weighing in on this on the Today Show today. He was talking to Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer said Donald Trump threatening to pull out of the Fox News debate because Megyn Kelly is going to be there. Does he do anything with that strategy other than make her a bigger superstar?
I think it does. Look, I think he's working the ref a little bit. And already, if he gets a question he doesn't like, he can just chalk it up to that. So I think he's just setting the expectation.
So he's working the ref a little bit. He's trying to get fair questions, easy questions, and so forth. And if he doesn't, he can just say, see, she doesn't like me. See, I told you she's biased. See, I told you they had it in for me, but I showed up. Or what have you. The super secret endorser has been announced, and it's not Jeff Sessions, it's Jerry Falwell Jr., who everybody thought it was going to be when it was Sarah Palin. Ended up being Sarah Palin. The first name that got floated around was Jerry Falwell Jr. Okay, a brief obscene profit timeout here on the fastest 3 hours in media, and then we will be right back. Okay, before we get to the sound bites from whatever this was last night that the Democrats put on, I want to go back to the phones because I just realized it's been a while since we've had a call or two. And believe me, those of you on the phones are far more important to me than Hillary Clinton and Crazy Bernie. So we'll go back to the phones at Tom in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Hello, sir. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you, Rush. Great to talk to you. I think I first caught you. Were you on in '88 in the Virginia Beach by any chance?
Wow, 1988 means you are a lifer. Virginia Beach.
I was just on vacation, and when you came on in Philadelphia, I heard you after that. But,
yeah, see, everybody remembers where they were when they first heard this program.
That's right. Well, here's my point. If you went to the auto mechanic to get your car fixed, he said, I can fix it, but it's going to take a while. You wouldn't say, okay, I'll be back in a while. You would ask him what he meant by that. And the word conservatism, I think that question has to be asked of that also. And when I hear, people saying Trump's not conservative, I say in my mind he is. I mean, traditional conservative used to mean balanced budgets, staying out of foreign wars, limiting immigration, and promoting American manufacturing.
See,
like all four guys on Mount Rushmore.
Hang on just a second. Wait just a second here, Tom. You are he's proving my point. Listen to his definition of conservatism. Now, I don't care what you think of it, but it's probably not yours, not universally. This is my point. I think when I say that the Republican establishment is overestimating the conservatives, and they're overestimating the single-minded, monolithic definition of what they think a conservative is. A guy like Tom here does not fit the definition of the drive-bys, nor of the Republican establishment. They think pro-life, and small government. That's what they think conservatives are. And Tom here has just made it plain that he's a much more broad-minded, broad-based conservative than what many in the Republican Party would consider a conservative to be. And that you are supporting Trump. Is that right?
I am. I mean, and in terms of him making the deals, like for the subject of today, suppose I think that's just the way he operates. Suppose he backs down on the wall, but catch a rock solid E-Verify, eliminate sanctuary cities, and just in general, puts more border guards and things like that. That'd be better than we had now. And do you follow me? He says things to get the deal.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold it. I need to make sure I heard you on that. You're saying that Trump could back down on the wall and back down on sanctuary cities and his supporters would understand it?
No, I'm not saying back down. I'm saying if he, as a tactic, gave in on the wall or simply couldn't get the wall built, but got rock-solid E-Verify and eliminated sanctuary cities, I think that would be a win. Don't you?
Well, I'm not analyzing it that way. I'm analyzing your thinking. I'm listening to you, and I'm analyzing your thinking on this. So you are already, the way I hear you, and I could be wrong. Don't be afraid to tell me I'm wrong. I know it's rare, but it could be. You're already making excuses for Trump not following through on what you think he said he's going to do.
No, I think he will do it, but if he doesn't, I'm saying there's when people negotiate to get things, it's just like a pro athlete. He asked for $20 million.
Wait a minute again. Are you saying Trump is negotiating with the voters?
No, I'm saying I'm saying he's a realist, and he's not a dictator when he gets elected president. And if he's setting high expectations, but if he doesn't get them, it's just like Lombardi said.
Tom, wait a minute.
Lombardi said, chase perfection, catch excellence.
Tom, the wall is the top 5 reasons. Stopping, sending them back. They got to go. They got to go. They got to go. They got to go. Build a wall. Of course, we're going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay. If that doesn't happen, you're telling me that Trump supporters are going to be cool with it as long as he sets up some other system to deal with it?
If the wall is a tactic to stop immigration or put a hold on it or limit it. If he accomplishes that some other way, no other politician has been able to do it since Eisenhower.
But so, I mean, no. It's not just the wall. Mexico is going to pay for it. That's not something he just said opening day and forgot it. It has been front and center. Said it as recently as last week. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Of course Mexico. Crowd stands up, standing ovation, cheers wildly. And you are setting up potential justifications for Trump either being unable to deliver or just not trying, one way or the other. You've got it set up so that you're not going to feel lied to. You're not going to feel used or any of that. I mean, you've raised a couple points here that I think are crucial about this. If Trump wins, if he gets elected, there's a lot of he had better do something. I mean, he's laid out a very specific set of things he's going to do that only he can do, and then nobody's going to stop him from doing. Anyway, your other thing that you said, and this is not related, but you started off your call by when you go into an auto mechanic and you ask, when's the thing going to be done, my car going to be done? And if they give you a vague answer like, well, it'll be a while, you don't want to hear in a while. You want to hear a specific time frame. And you have just identified a pet peeve of mine. I hate it. Somebody says, okay, I'll meet you at so-and-so. When are you going to be there? Soon. No. What is soon? Tell me when you're going to be there. It'll be soon. What's soon to you? Soon could be 2 hours to you. I want to know what it is. Now, if you think Trump is playing games like that, by not specifying various things to leave some leeway and latitude, then you are already constructing excuses for him not coming through. Okay, we're back. El Rushbo, with half my brain tied behind my back, just to make it fair. All right, here we go to the Democrat. They called it a town hall last night on CNN. It was moderated by Andrew Cuomo and I think some others maybe. And they did it one candidate at a time. They started out with Crazy Bernie, who promised to raise everybody's taxes and make Medicare free to everybody. I listened to these guys talk about how they're going to raise tax. I mentioned this once before, and I know it's a rhetorical thing, but there's a serious point of why even collect taxes? If you're why even worry about it other than to control people? Because the collection of taxes and raising revenue is irrelevant to the way you spend money. They're spending money we don't have already. So what is the big deal about raising taxes? Why even worry about the deficit? They don't make any pretense of worrying about the deficit. We're $20 trillion in debt. You listen to these people talk, and there's no end to this. They're going to spend it. They're going to raise tax. 94 million Americans not working. They can't pay any taxes. The people still working don't earn enough money to pay any significant increases in taxes. And yet here's crazy Bernie going on and on about it as though we're never in debt, we have no deficit, and the rich are not paying anything in taxes. And nobody is. And it's about time we raised everybody's taxes to a responsible level and then give away more free stuff. Juxtaposed against $20 trillion of national debt, $8 trillion of it with Obama, $7 trillion, $8 trillion of it created in the last 7 years. Well, the whole idea of raising revenue to run the government is meaningless when you compare it to the way these people want to spend it and do spend it. Anyway, Bernie was first, then Martin O'Malley, and then Hillary brought up the rear. And they had audience members asking questions, and it looks like many of the questions were written in advance and handed to people who were selected to stand up and ask them. Here is audience member Elena Dietz, who is leaning toward Sanders. She says, Secretary Clinton, earlier this month, Vice President Joe Biden said you were a newcomer to the issue of income inequality while praising Senator Sanders for his authentic voice on the issue. How do we know that you will keep this issue a top priority? Now, forgive me, but I just don't believe your average Democrat voter thinks that way nor speaks that way. I think what happened here is the Democrat Party decided the issues it wanted addressed, put them in the form of questions from a compliant, willing audience of Democrat voters, made to look like these are actual concerns of Democrat voters. Now, I'm not saying they don't care about income inequality, but nobody's going to run. Last week, Joe Biden said this about Bernie and you and this. This is too perfect. There's too many foils in this. Too many fall guys have been set up for Hillary to knock over. And they just happen to be the two guys being touted as potential replacements for her if she ends up indicted or behind bars. So anyway, here's the question again. Secretary Clinton, earlier this month, Vice President Joe Biden, this is the kind of question that Chuck Todd would ask you on Meet the Press. Secretary Clinton, earlier this month, Vice President Biden said that you were a newcomer to the issue of income inequality while praising Senator Sanders for his authentic voice on the issue. How do we know that you will keep income inequality a top priority?
I have a 40-year record of going after inequality. And not only economic inequality, racial inequality, sexist inequality, homophobic inequality, the kinds of things that go after people to put them down and push them back.
What?
I have a really long history of taking on all kinds of inequality. And when I went to Beijing in 1995 and said human rights were women's rights and women's rights were human rights, that was a statement about inequality, economic inequality, education inequality, cultural inequality, every kind of inequality you can imagine.
Okay, you see what I mean? That answer was just lying in wait, just waiting to be spoken. There's nothing ad lib about that answer. Now, she talks about how she'd been doing all this stuff here for 40 years. That's a hell of a record, by the way, of failure. 40 years, and they're still complaining about it all. And these people, they were still complaining about the state of the country, even after 7 years of them and Obama running it last night. This is the thing that continually amazes me. It's the Limbaugh theorem all over the place. It's like this country's been on autopilot from George W. Bush ever since 2001. They haven't been able to stop anything, and finally, we're going to stop it. Mrs. Clinton detailing everything that's gone wrong, including the last 7 years. Never once mentioning that they have been running the show the whole time. But we went back. Mrs. Clinton here talks about her 40-year record, racial inequality, homophobic inequality, how she'd been fighting homophobic inequality for 40 years. That would mean that Mrs. Clinton has a record of being pro-gay marriage, right? Well. As we went back to the Groove Yard of Forgotten Sound Bites here, we found November 20th, 2002, PMS NBC, a special hardball college tour with Hillary Clinton at the University of Albany. Chris Matthews, back when he was sane, well, relatively speaking, was interviewing Hillary Clinton during the Q&A. This goes by fast. It's an 8-second soundbite. So turn up your radios here. Give you a while to do that. 3, 2, well, I'll give you here's Matthew's question. Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage? You'll hear him ask the question, and here's her answer.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No.
No. Okay.
Hey, folks, that's just like 14 years ago. But she said she's been always for it. She did last night. In addition to this, she said she'd always been in the camp supporting gay marriage. Just like Obama wants you to believe. But none of these people were for gay marriage until, 3-4 years ago. None of them. Every damn one of them, when they were running for office prior to 2012, were opposed to gay marriage, including Mrs. Clinton. The next question came from a millennial, audience member Taylor Gipple, Iowa native, leaning for Bernie Sanders. Question, Mrs. Clinton, it feels like there's a lot of young people like me who are very passionate supporters of Bernie Sanders, and I just don't see the same enthusiasm from younger people for you. In fact, I've heard from quite a few people my age that they think you're dishonest. But I'd like to hear from you on why you feel the enthusiasm isn't there. So the question, Mrs. Clinton, I'm a millennial. A lot of my friends love Bernie Sanders. They think you're a liar. But I don't care about that. I want you to tell me why they're so enthusiastic for Bernie. The guy just told her that his friends think that she is dishonest. But he doesn't ask about that. He wants to know what she thinks about why there's more enthusiasm for crazy Bernie.
I've been around a long time. People have thrown all kinds of things at me. And, I can't keep up with it. I just keep going forward. They fall by the wayside. They come up with these outlandish things. They make these charges. I just keep going forward because there's nothing to it. They throw all this stuff at me, and I'm still standing. You have to say to yourself, why are they throwing all of that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I've been on the front lines of change and progress since I was your age.
Yeah, well, this kid doesn't think you have much to show for it. That's the point. And that's the whole reaction. I've been doing this, and I've been doing that, I've been leading this, I've been fighting for that, and yet you're still complaining about all of it. As though nothing's gotten done. There's still inequality out there. There's still bigotry out there. There's still racism out there. There's still sexism out there. There's still unfairness out there. There's still mean-spiritedness out there. There's still extremism out there. There's still Republicans out there. She's been fighting it her whole life. So here you're a millennial. You're basically standing up asking your grandmother. And Hillary's answer, I don't know that that's what millennials want. This sounds like a parent or grandparent lecturing you, yelling at you, telling you, hey, look, bud, I've been fighting in the trenches while you were just a whippersnapper eating Cheerios with your Snickers bar. I've been out there fighting for real change my whole thyroid problem. Life. That's Mrs. Clinton's answer. Grab the hook. And now, brief timeout, my friends, as we roll on. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Not only was Hillary anti-gay marriage, she was anti-gay marriage as recently as 2008 during that campaign, folks. Anti-gay marriage. She was also pro-Iraq war. She voted for the Iraq war. Now, poor crazy Bernie has tried to make that point. Crazy Bernie just does not make it forcefully enough. Crazy Bernie knows. He doesn't want to be the kind of guy that dies by virtue of suicide with 2 gunshots in his head. So he's playing it very... close to the vest. Here is Ellen in Rochester, Washington. Great to have you on the Rush Limbaugh program. Hi.
Hi, Rush.
Hi.
Hi. I was thinking about, excuse me, how politicians say that they're going to do something before they're elected into office, and they never follow through with it.
Right.
And so Mike Huckabee stuck up for the county clerk who went and signed the marriage license and kind of rallied behind the woman, I believe her name was Kim Davis.
Kim Davis, correct.
And so the whole thing with Planned Parenthood, excuse me, the politicians who say that they're going to shut down Planned Parenthood when they become president, I would like to see some action prior to ensure that what they're saying.
Well, see, this is another somewhat glaring example. How many, Mr. Snerdley, you follow this kind of minutia. How many defund Planned Parenthood votes have there been? One. How many have there been talked about? How many times have we heard we're going to defund this, we're going to take care of it, you elect me, if we get the Senate, if we get the House or whatever. It's talked about a lot, but all the time it doesn't happen. And this is just to chalk up another reason why people are worn out on promises and assurances from the establishment. But this case, this grand jury, and what happened here, if this is right, if this prosecutor decided to go after the two video makers, because they didn't have immunity like other undercover cops do, and therefore they committed crimes, and we're going to go after them instead of Planned. This is going to be fascinating to watch how this shakes out. Anyway, got to take a break here, folks, because we're about out of it. Darn it, folks, I just realized I didn't get to a story that I had here on the stack of non-political news. New York City is on the verge of allowing public urination, so the people who now do it will not be penalized. They'd rather not tell them no. And I'll have this and other things tomorrow when we next get together.